Her Majesty escaped death on her birthday. Did you read about this? Shoo, shoo, shoo. What a close shave she had. She was trundling along in the Range Rover, being driven by a rather handsome driver, bodyguard, shall we say. And she looked wonderful, didn't she? Did you see that wonderful headscarf, the silk kerchief around the head with that shock of vibrant lippy, beautiful in dark fuchsia. And she looked so cool. She's just effortlessly cool, my dear, in those brown tinted glasses, the shades over her eyes. Just so cool, wasn't she? And apparently they were leaving the Sandringham estate, and you know those country roads here in England, they're so twisty-turny, you can't see what's going on. You cannot speed around them. I mean, look what happened to Philip when he ended up on his side. What a palaver that was. And in this instance, apparently, a Nissan seemed to appear out of nowhere. They're only going, I think, about 30 miles an hour, but there's so many blind spots. And the Queen's car had to quickly swerve up onto a grass verge. But everyone's saying such a close call. Can you imagine on her 96th birthday if we'd have seen the end of Her Majesty? Well, it doesn't bear thinking about, does it, my dears? But to cheer us up the next day on Prince Louis's 4th birthday, we were provided with these charming photographs of the youngster. Very nice photographs taken by our dear Catherine on a beach, believed to be Holcombe Beach in Norfolk, so not too far away from Manmore Hall. So it's thought that the Cambridges really love going to that beach. But I want to start with some comments that I got, because you really do keep me entertained, you know. I can't reply to all the comments, but I do read them, and especially over the last few weeks, just so juicy, so salty. It's a show in itself, I've got to say. You're great. You left many comments regarding Meghan's wardrobe when she was at Invictus. Because I think the thing is, isn't it, my dears, that most of us, whether we like her or not, whether we care for the girl or not, would love to be able to help her with those wardrobe choices, you know, or just point her in the right direction, because she almost gets there on so many occasions. You know, she'll almost get there in some way, but then it'll be the most bizarre choice in tailoring, won't it? No finesse, no panache, none of Catherine's flair. Why can't she look at Catherine for instruction to get it right? You know, it's such a shame. There's nothing wrong with her or her body, anything like that, but she chooses the most ridiculous cuts, fabrics, you know, the different ways she showcases it don't work. Nicholas's Voyage said. You know, I can't even read to you most of the comments. You'll have to look through yourself because they're just too evil. I mean, I love them, but I have to moderate what I say. But, you know, Nicholas's Voyage, I'm so sorry to say this, but the Valentino suit looks like a refrigerator. It's all block capitals. It really does, doesn't it? She looks like a refrigerator in that. And you think, why? Sorry to say, River. Yes, it is a shame. Patty Stitt says, "Darling, I saw her hands in a shot and I thought at first Harry was holding a man's hand." Now, a lot of people have mentioned that she has quite masculine features. So let's make it clear, you know, I'm somebody with rather the opposite. I have rather feminine features here and there, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If she's got traditionally masculine features, that's wonderful. You know, femininity is a broad spectrum of different kinds of features. And some of hers are of the tomboy, shall we say, of the tomboy, which is wonderful. But yes, there are tips and tricks to make the most of those features, shall we say, or the quirks. The quirks. Carmen De Silva, Play Torbay, says, "She's gone from frocks that were 2 sizes too small to a white outfit that's 2 sizes too big. Sorry, no go." Yes, it's true, isn't it? She went from one sort of look a few years ago to another, and the way that she dressed both of those silhouettes has been a calamity. It's heartbreaking. I think her suit makes her look twice the size than what she is. Her pointed toe shoes are outdated. She could have used a very simple gold or metallic bag, as I suggested, and if she held the bag nicely, not like a frump. Yet she didn't hold it very gracefully, did she? That's the thing. I know it's called a clutch bag, but that doesn't mean you literally have to clutch it as if, you know, you're holding the crown jewels in there or something, you know. She has a male shape, hard to dress feminine. Maybe she should consult RuPaul. And actually, a few people have suggested that consulting RuPaul or a drag queen might benefit her. And I mean that in all seriousness, because there's some gorgeous women out there, some with a boxy boy shape, some not, who will always go, I'm talking about members of royalty as well, who will always refer to the different kind of queen to give them a little bit of advice, to point them in the right direction. As an extreme example, look at Joan Collins, who's going to be involved with the Platinum Jubilee celebrations coming up. Look at Joan Collins. In real life, she dresses like Alexis. I think she was very inspired by the influence of Alexis's wardrobe on her own life. And she, with all the shoulder pads and the sharp tailoring, the cuts, the huge hair, it's just classic drag queen. I caught something very interesting a few weeks ago. It was Joan Collins, and they filmed a court case she was involved in. It was Joan Collins versus Random House, the publishers. Random House had given her an advance, $1.2 million it was, a lot of money, because she had so much earning potential back then on the back of Dynasty. And she was supposed to complete 2 manuscripts, but after she delivered the first manuscript, they said it was unreadable, and they attempted to sue her for the return of the advance. Anyway, to cut a long story short, the court ruled in favour of Joan Collins in the end. But it's really fascinating to watch this trial because, to begin with, Joan is not quite Joan, or should I say she's the regular version of Joan that her friends and associates know. Quite down to earth, quite timid is the wrong word, and shy, but the more introvert side of Joan that the world doesn't get to see. And you got the feeling that the trial perhaps wasn't going to go that much in her favour. She wasn't that... convincing is the wrong word, but she was sort of rustling through her notes, not quite there. She wasn't the character that we see on screen, of course, because she's a human being that has a certain persona. But at some point in the trial, towards the end, she got a fire in her belly, my dear. And the next time you saw her march into the courthouse, she gave us Alexis Carrington Colby Dexter. And the jury lapped it up. All of a sudden, there was no messing with her. All of a sudden, she wasn't going to take no you-know-what. And the sass was there, and the looks were there.
In October 20...
Was the writing that you did a revision of the first draft, consistent with the suggestions contained in the letter?
That's impossible to answer, yes or no.
All right.
Did...
16.
Oh, I'm looking at the book.
No.
Well, you've switched back and forwards,
Miss
Mr.
Collins,
Callagher.
Miss
You were
Collins.
confusing me.
I don't think you have to... Please, Mr.
What do you
Callagher,
want me to
please,
look at now?
Miss Collins.
submitted exhibit...
Oh, Mr. Kelly, you're not supposed to come close to me without asking permission.
Your Honor, may I approach?
May approach.
Did you sometimes call this Athena?
Sometimes I called it Hitler's mistress. It went through so many different names.
What is the answer?
No.
Was that unanimous?
Yes.
And it all came from the foundations of what she was wearing. You know, what you throw on yourself will make you behave in a certain way. It will bring out certain attributes. You know, as we say, you can accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. So I'm not saying that Measure needs to start dressing as Joan Collins, of course not. That's a style that works for Miss Collins. But I am saying that a few tips and tricks when it comes to foundation garments, colour palettes, and a general vision for the wardrobe, I feel someone's not whispering the right thing in her ear. You know, she's surrounded by gays, they love the gays, which is fabulous, everybody does. Well, I'm not that keen on them, but most of the world loves them. You know, she has Daniel Martin there, the makeup artist. I've always said he does a really good job. So, you know, she's halfway there, but not quite. There's been a huge publicity push over the last few weeks, but especially this weekend, for the release of Tina Brown's book, The Palace Papers. So just because I'm mentioning it, I'm not recommending it, everybody. In fact, it doesn't really sound quite my cup of tea. You know, there's a lot of tittle-tattle. Well, she is the former editor of Tatler itself, so she knows what she's doing, she knows how to rustle up a good story, but I'm not sure how much of it is rehashed, I'm not sure how much of it is conjecture, so I'm not recommending it, but people are saying that she has been very dogged in some of her research. She has quite a few stories revolving around Cressy Bon-Bons and her time with Prince Harry, some insights she has there, which is what I'm here to discuss. Because she seems to back up a lot of what I've been recounting to you, which is, in my view, of Harry's inane jealousy and fury towards William in particular, as well as Charles. But that seething jealousy that he has of our Big Willie, for many reasons, including that namesake. But she says Harry grew angry. This is going back about 10 years. He grew angry when he felt that William was hogging all the best briefs. Well, he is the future king, what do you expect, my dear? And when he wasn't obsessing over William, he was moaning about Charles. You know, this is what his life became, a sort of constant revolve regarding William and Charles and his tantrums at them and his petulance. And he used to vent all of his frustrations to Cressida, poured out resentments about Charles, apparently. So much so that eventually she recommended that he see a therapist. Are you picking up a sort of thread line throughout his relationships? Because I think he credits Megan with charging him to see a therapist, probably Doria. Doesn't she? But it seems to be a common thread, doesn't it? They all say you need to see someone, Harry, which is fair enough, and good for him. If he seemed to accept this, so you've got to hand that to him. There's nothing wrong with that. But apparently, this led him to approach MI6, our secret intelligence service. He approached them to seek out the best therapists. I mean, that's a bizarre piece of gossip, isn't it, my dear? I don't know if it's true, but rows between him and William escalated after William became patron of the Rhino and Elephant Charity Tusk Trust in 2015. And they had Olympic rows, she says. Epics, Olympic-sized rows. And she quotes friends of the time as saying that Harry was a very, very angry man. Oh, shocker. And Tina Brown says that after the relationship with old Cressy Bon-Bons broke down, he wrote to her saying, and she quotes this, so I don't know if she's privy to the private papers of Cressy Bon-Bon, but she says that the letter from Harry said, "I admire you, I wish you well, and above all, thank you for helping me to address my demons and seek help." So I can only concur with Prince Harry if those were his words when it comes to demons. He seems to be haunted by demons, doesn't he, my dear? And everybody else suffers because of it. That's the unfortunate thing. She says the Harkles are addicted to drama, and there are many out there who suggest that they have personality disorders. I'm not prepared to go down that route and accuse them of that kind of thing, because that's between them and their therapists, but there are many who do suggest, and I'm sure you've all read what the suggestions are of those personality disorders that would make them addicted to drama, that it would be a psychological need in them for this kind of friction, if those rumours are true. She says the pair became drunk on a shared fantasy of being the instruments of global transformation, who, once married, would operate in the celebrity stratosphere once inhabited by Princess Diana. So was it this common concern they both shared, this desire to become global humanitarian figures, or was it the fact that they both thrive on drama and so they know that they can feed each other in that way? I would imagine that it's a mixture of the two of those things, because as I noted last week, they got all the praise for humanitarian efforts with regards Invictus last week, full of praise. Funnily enough, that wasn't enough for Harry, was it? It was not enough. He had to pour some mischief into the mix, didn't he? In his interview with Hoda Kotb. Thank you for telling me how to pronounce her name, by the way, my dears. Oh, and also thanks to those of you who told me, I was wearing my pink kimono in the last video. I pulled it out for Her Majesty's birthday. Thank you for your compliments, by the way. But you also told me that it's not a kimono, it's a kebaya, which comes out of Indonesia as a type of dress from the Indonesian shores. So that was nice for me to know, because I can look out for another in the future. I liked wearing that kebaya. I'm sure you saw that Harry had a night off while he was in The Hague. He even treated himself to a pint of beer. The landlord said, I'll just have the one pint, just the one pint, then I'm turning to lemonade. And I applaud him for that, because most of us know that he's had a lot of struggles with regards to addiction and dependencies, so I applaud that. He had his pint with some old chums, I think some of them from Eton, some from the Invictus Games itself, and everybody says he was so relaxed, had a wonderful time. Well, this was curious, wasn't it? Mr. Tom Cruise is to host a section of the Platinum Jubilee, You know, I told you they're going to be doing a large segment called A Gallop Through Time, which actually sounds quite thrilling. It's in 4 sections, journeying from the reign of Elizabeth I through to Her Majesty's coronation. Thousands of performers, hundreds of horses, huge big thing with 4 segments, and he's going to be presenting the first act. Tom Cruise! People have been questioning this. Why? What's he got to do with royalty? Apparently he loves royalty, who knew? And apparently he hosted a screening of the Top Gun sequel recently because he got wind of the fact that Prince William was a Top Gun fan. And so he arranged a private screening. The rumours are that it was William, Catherine, Beatrice, Eugenie, and Sophie. Not Edward. Didn't Eddie want to come along and meet Mr. Cruise? Apparently not. Didn't want to go cruising. But yes, the rest of them enjoyed themselves, their popcorn, apparently, put on a show. I expect that's where he must have been asked. Maybe Big Willie put the feelers out, who knows? But yeah, Tom Cruise. And, you know, it is an odd choice, but I do have faith in these big productions. They usually go down really well, so we'll see how it all comes when it's pulled together. Damian Lewis is going to be hosting Act 2. He's an old neighbour of mine, actually, in the sort of Kentish Town, North London area. Lovely chap, I've got to tell you, quite handsome. Adja Andau will host Act 3, an actress from Bridgerton, and Alan Titchmarsh, a famous green-fingered gardener, over here for Act 4. There's going to be Dame Joan Collins, hosted by Philip Schofield and Julie Etchingham. And Dame Helen Mirren, who played the Queen in the movie, will appear as Elizabeth I. It is an odd choice, this Tom Cruise thing, and I'm not a fan of his at all. I've never really enjoyed his performances, although I know a lot of people that really, really do rate him as a good actor. It's just not my kind of cup of tea, and he does look like Sandy Toksvig. But maybe they know that bringing him into the cast will add that international flavour and raise a bit of interest from our friends over the pond. You know, publicity, who knows the thinking behind it, but let's see how they pull it all together. And the children of the family Cambridge are said to have a prominent, or at least rather visible role in the celebrations. George, Charlotte and Louis, of course, and Charles will be playing a sort of host, the MC of the affair. Life is a cabaret, my dear, and Camilla, of course, you know, a lot will be made of them. You know, they want to promote a good feeling with Charles and Camilla, and Her Majesty won't be able to attend that much physically, so they'll be taking the reins there. You know, I saw a lovely segment the other day. It was on the chat show Loose Women, and Craig Revel Hallwood was on there, who is one of the judges on Strictly Come Dancing, which is our version of Dancing with the Stars. And he's a sort of villain everybody loves to hate, but he's become a bit softer over the years, and everyone seems to really like him. He's very popular because he's become good pals with Camilla, you see. She loves the gays, as I've told you before. She adores the gays and they love her. You know, the gays always see a good thing before anybody else. You know, I'm not a huge fan of the gays, but they do. The gays, then fairly soon after, the girls will catch on to it, and then somewhere a few years down the line, straight men will start catching up. But it's the gays and the girls that get the feeling of these kind of things that are fabulous, and Camilla is one of them. So he spoke about how he's going to be inviting her to his upcoming marriage, to his husband-to-be. He said, Camilla's on the list and we get on very, very well, he said. They work together at the Royal Osteoporosis Society. He said she's hilarious. She has a really wicked sense of humour. She's nice, lovely person and grounded and earthy. And although people expect to have to curtsy and bow, you don't have to. She's just very natural and very lovely. So yet another report of how wonderful she is. And I'm so glad that they've been coming out of the woodwork this year. People at last aren't afraid to say that she really is a really magnificent woman that has been much maligned and unfairly maligned for reasons that are nobody's business. Nobody's business. And apparently Catherine's going to have some involvement with Superbloom that's going to be going on at the Tower of London. Have you heard about this? Another really beautiful gesture that's going to be a lasting legacy of Her Majesty. The moat around the Tower of London is going to be flooded with flowers, complete with a slide, so you can actually come into the moat on a slide if you fancy. That sounds quite fun, doesn't it? Are you game? Yes, I think so. 20 million seeds have been sown, and they're going to erupt around the June time through to September, so you can go and see this kaleidoscope of colour in bloom, and it's designed to attract pollinators. So actually that's going to be a nightmare, isn't it, for those of us that suffer with hay fever. Oof, that season's coming up, isn't it? Another reason why I dread summer. It hasn't been too bad over the last few years, but I'm not sure going to... Well, I'll have to wear maybe a nose plug and some goggles if I attend this, but it's there to attract pollinators and introduce a new biodiverse habitat for wildlife. It's going to be celebrating the value of nature for our well-being, which is such a royal message. It's what the royal family themselves believe in, isn't it? Going out for a brisk walk, not so much relying on medication unless you really, really have to, but getting out there, getting up and out, hugging the trees, talking to the flowers if you're Prince Charles, spending time with your ponies and your dogs if it's Her Majesty. It's a wonderful message, A lot of the press commenting on the fact that Prince Harry is not going to say either way whether or not he's going to be attending. He's going to be keeping everybody guessing. I know a lot of people think that he's doing that for attention. I think his main reason, actually, for this is his paranoia about being attacked in a brutal act of some kind, whether that's terrorism or some kind of payback for his service in Afghanistan. He seems to be experiencing a lot of paranoia about that. And not all of it is completely unjustified. There are horrific attacks that happen all the time. Some of them don't even make the press very much these days. But, we've had horrific attacks in the past year here. And the royal family are a target. But hopefully he won't let these fears overtake and rule his life, because that would be such a shame. And his children are going to be so cosseted because of it. But the whispers I've been getting, not from the press, but personally from a few people on the ground, is that it's really this. He doesn't want word to get out when he's going to travel, where he's going to be. He wants to just arrive, go under the radar, and just appear on that day, so that people don't have time to plan and strategize and say, well, that's where he's going to be on that day. We're going to do this, that, and the fourth to get to him. He wants to throw in some confusion there and keep as much knowledge away from the general public as possible. I've also been getting private whispers, and I might address this in a future video, when I'm able to share more and when I'm able to not be too enigmatic about it and can actually share freely. But really I'm getting whispers regarding Charles and William, regarding their feelings towards Harry being in Her Majesty's presence on her own. And there is a lot of truth, I believe, in what's going round with regards to Charles's reluctance to allow Harry alone with Her Majesty for any length of time at all. There is zero trust there, by all accounts, because he's such a loose cannon with any snippet of information that he has. Nobody trusts him with anything. He can warp anything, manipulate anything, just as we saw happen in the Oprah interview. Trust is at an all-time low, with the memoir coming out and everything else like that. And Harry, by all accounts, is getting nervous because tick, 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 time's ticking. And we don't know when that moment is that Charlie Boy is going to become king, but it is inevitable that it's going to happen. And when that happens, I'm afraid it's going to be gloves off on both sides. Harry is not going to be worried anymore about, not that he's shown much concern so far, but this veneer of respecting the Queen and looking out for her and protecting her, that'll all be gone. That will all be gone, and Charles will be there in the firing line, and the whole institution of monarchy, and William, for him to take as many pot shots at as he wants without getting the criticism that he would otherwise get for damaging the Queen. They know this. They know this. Harry also knows that once Her Majesty's gone, he won't have that sympathetic ear there to perhaps extend an olive branch or give him the benefit of the doubt in the same way. And Charles and William in particular, do not want to give this boy an inch because they know he will take miles. That betrayal will never be forgotten. That betrayal will always be raw and keenly felt for William and Charles. And Harry, as far as I can see, enjoys toying with them. Enjoys toying with the fact that no matter what William and Charles do, no matter how many successes they have, he can always be slyly concealed there in the corner with one of his little grenades ready to chuck out into the public sphere and put a damp squib on anything good that they do or any praise that they receive. You know, that's his little card. That's his little game. And that's why, according to the whispers I've been hearing, that contrary to what Harry says, it's not just him who wants to protect the Queen, but Charles. From his own son, Harry. Thanks for dropping in, my darlings. I promise I'll be back with another broadcast as soon as I can. Enjoy what's left of the weekend. By the time this is up, there probably won't be much left of it, but enjoy it, and I'll see you during the week. Thank you very much to those of you who have left me a little tip in the tip jar, which you can find in the description box beneath this video. Stay royal and stay sexy. Love to you all. Doodle pip.